We've got the rainbow stripes this year. Shams March just won the Masters World Downhill Championships on his Quake. About 3 weeks ago, it's Sun Peaks in Canada. That was pretty exciting, big deal for us. I'd like to take a minute to talk about the suspension and the way that it works and what makes our suspension design unique. There's two principles behind this bike that make it unique and make it effective. The first one of them that you're going to have is the axle path. This bike has 6.7 inches of travel. The first third of the travel, you get a small amount of chain growth. Chain growth is necessary because as you pedal, it drives the back wheel into the ground, gives you traction. Past that 1/3 of an inch, or the sag point, you move into a zero chain growth curve. The reason that's important is because as the bike gets further into the travel, you get zero interaction with the pedals against the wheels. Whether that's no pedal kickback from doing a big drop, or no pedal feedback when pedaling through rough terrain, rocks, roots, drops, divots, whatever you have. The second important feature of this suspension design is the instantaneous pivot center. If you were to draw a line between this point out into space and these points out into space, you get a point about here. And as the suspension moves through its travel, that point moves in a lazy arc down towards the bottom bracket, effectively shortening the length of the swing arm as it relates to the rear shock. So at the beginning of the travel, the bike feels like about a 9-inch travel bike, and it finishes about a 6.5-inch travel bike. You get tremendous small bump compliance, but also the ability to handle big hits without bottoming out. So instantaneous pivot center, intelligent wheel path work together to make a bike that pedals well, handles big hits, and is really stiff. So because we put the bearings and the technology all up inside the front triangle, it allows us to have an uninterrupted seat tube. It allows us to have massive mud clearance for even 2.5 or 2.7 tires. And it allows us to keep a super stiff truss-like swing arm that won't flex. That's the Quad XLT. This is a Wolf Ridge. This design has been around for a while, but the only thing that really carries over from last year to this year is the monocoque tube and the swing arm shape. Everything else about this bike is different. We have shortened the chainstay by 3/4 of an inch. We lowered the bottom bracket by 1 inch. We took out the ability to adjust the travel. We fixed the travel at 6 inches. We added a geometry adjust feature down here to adjust the head tube angle and seat tube angle by 1 degree, and it raises and lowers the bottom bracket by 1/2 inch. We stiffened up the swing arm, and we relaxed the head tube and seat tube angle, shortened the front center. Basically what we've done is we've made a 6-inch travel trail bike with a similar geometry to the Quake, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 pounds lighter. The main frame on this one is monocoque, so you take 2 clamshell pieces and you put them together, and then a robot comes through and welds them. Never ever had a failure of a monocoque weld because the robots are so precise about how they lay down the bead and how the depth of the weld is controlled. This is our new Mount Vision Pro. This bike works on the same principle as the Quake that we talked about previously. We've got 2 short links, all contained inside the front triangle. The important features here are the same ones that are important on the Quake. We've got the instantaneous pivot center. We also have the same intelligent wheel path on this bike. We've got a small amount of chain growth for the first 30% of the travel, and then you move into a zero chain growth curve for the remainder of the travel. Gives you very good traction when pedaling, and efficient pedaling through larger travel sections of the bike where you're going through dips and roots, rocks, things like that. Fully hydroformed tube set, the top tube, the down tube, the seat stay, chain stay, and connector tubes are all hydroformed. Hydroforming allows you to make an extremely light, extremely strong tube that's rigid. And in 3-dimensional shapes, you can get shapes that are similar to things that you can get in carbon fiber, but you get durability for things against rocks and stones and other debris that your bike might encounter when you're not on it. This bike's going to be available in 4 sizes. People at the Dirt Demo have found it to be one of the funnest bikes at the show, and we're pretty proud of it. This model here makes it easy to imagine how the instantaneous pivot center works. You take that line and draw it through these links. Out into space, you end up with a point about here. And as it moves through, you can see now your instantaneous pivot center somewhere down here near the bottom bracket. Shorten the effective chainstay, you get a rising rate on the shock. This year is Marin's 20th anniversary. One of the first high-end bikes that we made was a USA-made titanium bike. So what we've decided to do this year is go back to the original makers of our first titanium bikes, which are the Linsky family in Tennessee, and have them weld up a special edition anniversary team titanium. This bike is custom tube set, custom butted, titanium frame. It's going to be a limited production, maybe 200 pieces worldwide for the first year. Each will be individually numbered. Come with a brass head tube badge. Will be available as a frame only or as a complete XTR 2007 XTR bike.